Hi everyone. I want to tell you about a technique for getting help from your instructional staff that will also serve you well moving forward in any programming tasks you undertake. It's called the minimum working example. Minimum working example. Now, many of you have been seeing this issue over here. An error in the attempt to invoke the print high spenders method. Previously, it was a different method, doesn't really matter. There's an error to invoke it. And this has been very challenging to debug. So what I did is I went through my code and I removed code. You would save it elsewhere so you could rebuild your method. In this case, I'm not showing it at all, so that you have just 3 lines. And if we check it, what we'll see is we get that same issue, an error in an attempt to invoke the method. So I went through my code, I removed it line by line until I had just the fewest number of lines that I needed to make this error happen. And now when I look at this, it's a lot easier to figure out what's happening. The first thing is when you were reducing the number of lines, I figured out that it was this next int call here that was the issue. And if I scroll up to the input, I looked at this and thought, okay, we're reading in the number of high spenders, we're reading in a name, and then we're reading in a value. Now, the problem is here, we're doing a next int, so we do 3. We then look at the name, which is next, which is anything separated by white space. We get the name, and then we get next int. And the problem is we actually have a double here. So we have a floating point integer of some sort that has a decimal point. So this is not an integer. So this would throw an exception, and that would cause there to be an issue when running your code when testing it. So if we then change this to next double, save it, and then check, we then see that it's failed the tests, but we're not getting that error where it doesn't invoke the method. So what we have here is just 3 lines of code that shows exactly the problem we're trying to have. And this is great because it really narrows things down so that people can help you debug this. So it kind of simplifies everything. And it's so abstracted that this would be okay to share on the general channel. Remember, we don't want you to share your full code. We don't want you to share solutions. It's something that will not benefit you if you're just looking at other people's solutions. But if you have a minimum working example here, someone else can help you with that by saying, oh, I had that issue too. It was the next int. We can change that to next double. And so when it's so abstracted that all you're doing is showing like these 3 lines, it makes it easier for you to debug. It makes it easier for your instructional staff to debug. And you might be able to share it more widely with the class. Of course, when in doubt, just double check with the instructor and the TAs. And it might be faster for them to say, oh, that's okay to share than it is for them to debug for you. So, work on making these minimum working examples if you're having trouble. These are the kinds of things in practice that you might share on Stack Overflow. You're not going to get an answer if you post this giant code, but if you make a custom method that demonstrates the issue, this will do it. Thanks so much.